Welcome to Make That Paper, the show where we talk about all the crazy jobs we do to make the cash we need to pursue our artistic dreams.
And to pay a service to dig up info on podcast guests who aren't active on social media.
Ooh, that was tough. Yeah. Today, we are talking about the bill payment profession, also known as the white-collar career or the office jockey day job. We are your hosts, Jaime Parker Stickle.
And Jason Bieber.
And on this episode, we are talking to the writer of one of my favorite books on the planet, Kevin Kramer Starts on Monday.
Her short stories have been published in Harper's, Ziziva, Electric Literature's Recommended Reading, and Hobart, among other journals.
And right now, she's at work on a new story collection, but thankfully, she's taking this evening to spend some time talking to us about the many day jobs that have informed her writing. So please welcome to the show, the incomparable Debbie Graber.
Yay!
Hi, guys.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us at this late hour.
Yes, we really appreciate it. Like making time for us and being like, yes, after I've worked a long ass day, I will come on your podcast.
After I worked a long day at my soul-sucking white-collar job. Are you kidding? This is amazing. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. So I think we can, we've got some stuff to jump into. For starters, you gave us a list of your jobs, of jobs you've done in the past. And I know that if we go all the way back to the beginning, back to the Chicago days,
yes.
were you already writing when you were working at the Second City?
I was really kind of like dabbling with things back then. I kind of always, I don't know if you guys had this impulse or, I always thought at some point, like I wanted to write. I want to write something, but and I took classes in college and stuff, but I was like, it was a process, and so it was really, especially back then, I think I was so excited to be working there at Second City. And, I was just like a real improv junkie at the time. And taking classes there. And
you working at Second City, I think improv and old school improv, long form improv is really like a gateway or like a gateway drug to writing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I totally agree. I think it's all about like the connections that you make, the synaptic connections you make in your brain. And, I mean, I was, full disclosure, I was a pretty horrible long form improviser. I mean,
Me too.
It's hard. I mean, it's really hard to do well. And I think the people who are good at it can just like get in a gear where they're just like really, they get conditioned to like using their brains that way. But to your point, I completely agree. I think, it is like a really good way to kind of like train yourself to sort of follow different paths that you wouldn't necessarily follow. So I'm down with that. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So were you working in their office or were you interning? Because out here we have the 3 office people at Second City LA. And you were always like, oh, please let that other one answer the phone to me when you were a student. You're just like, no, not that one, the other one.
That's
we always had the interns that did the ticket sales and like were there all the time.
Because Second City was such like a Chicago staple, it was like a historical, it just was such an institution that it was really, for a theater, it was extremely well staffed. I mean, there were people, there was an entire, there was a marketing department. Well, it was me and one other person, my boss at the time. And then, they had like all these people who were in the box office. They had a ton of people working in the box office. And then they had all of these, the servers and the wait staff and everything. And it was a pretty big operation, I have to say.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was just like a really fun, it was a fun, like creative job, or I should say creative place. The job itself wasn't super creative.
What was the job?
Well, I had a very glamorous job when I was there. I sold dinner theater packages to people.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Sales.
if you've ever
We love sales.
There was this restaurant next to Second City called That Steak Joint. Oh my God, which is no longer, it hasn't been in existence for a long time, but That Steak Joint, God knows what was going on. It was like mafia run, no offense to anybody affiliated with That Steak Joint. But so for a long time, we were doing dinner theater packages with That Steak Joint, like solely. And then we like branched out to like a restaurant across the street. There's a Italian place across the street and then a barbecue place up the block. And anyway, so I sold like group sales and dinner theater packages.
It's amazing.
So, we would get like people from like a group, like corporate outings, people from Michigan and, coming in for the weekend and stuff like that. So that was my job, which was very exciting. And then, sometimes we would have like buyouts. Like, and this sort of pre-shadows my corporate whatever. Like we would have these big corporate buyouts where like some company like A6 bought out the theater for one thing where they, we decked out the whole lobby with like A6 shoes and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure I'm making it sound really exciting. Because it really was.
But did they pay you hourly or did you also get commission when you would do packages?
I did get commission.
Yes.
Nice.
I did. I mean, they paid me hourly. And then I also got commissions on my dinner theater packages.
Yeah. Because I went to Michigan State University and I worked at the Wharton Theater. Is it what, the Wharton Theater? I can't even remember. That's how late it is, everybody. But I did graduate from that university. So I should know this because I was in theater. Anyways, I worked in ticket sales there and I didn't know this, but I could also earn commission. I never did. I sold like 2 tickets at a time. There was no commission. You had to sell like group packages and you would get a commission on it. And I thought that was really pretty freaking cool.
They started doing that. I was there for 5 years and they started doing the commission thing like a couple of years into it. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was making enough to live on, as per this podcast, like I had enough money to live on. I wasn't a complete starving improviser, which I probably would have been because I'm not a very good improviser. So.
Did they give you classes at a discount or for free as an employee?
They did not. They did not do that. So I had to pay more of the classes. But I think I'm trying to remember. I feel like I finished the classes just as I had gotten the job.
Yeah.
So I think it was like ships passing in the night. But I think, you know what? They probably wouldn't have given me a discount anyway. Although, I mean, who knows?
I think you only get a discount when you intern for them, which is they're not paying you.
Right.
So then they give you a discount on your classes.
So let me ask you this: what prompted you to transition? It's not you're taking classes at Second City. Maybe you're doing a little improv, and what sparked your interest in going upstairs and working in the office?
Yeah.
I really thought that somehow I was going to breach the gap, that like, if I had a job there, like I would somehow be around all of this creative energy. And then I would be like a super good improviser all of a sudden, or I would
100%.
They would know me,
osmosis through the ceiling of the theater.
Exactly. Up through the floors, it was all coming through, exactly through osmosis. So I really think that was I thought, I'll just get to know people. And then, that'll like grease the wheels for my like nascent improv career, which, didn't end up happening.
Definitely you working for the talent manager.
Sure.
Same thing.
Yeah. I used to work for a talent manager and just being around it and seeing how it worked and, what goes on behind the scenes.
You maybe slip your headshot to the casting directors when the auditions come in.
It doesn't hurt. It never hurts to know how it works on the non-glamorous side. I mean, that's a good thing to know.
100%, because once you're on the other side of it, you are so much more informed to be in front of the camera or be a writer because you know exactly what they're looking for then. And
that's right.
Not your talent. It's not your talent. They're selling a product. They're pushing a product in this business. Right. And that is, yes, you have to be talented, but it's not going to, you aren't going to affect an entire production.
That's right. That's right. And it's so subjective. That's another thing I think that one could say about any creative endeavor. And that's what makes it so difficult /
painful,
kind of unseemly to sort of navigate. It's like, you want to think that you're taken seriously as an artist, or you want people to like what you do. But the reality is people don't always like what you do. I mean, some people just don't get it, or some people don't, especially about writing. Like, how many people are reading anymore, really? So it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think as I've gotten older, I sort of have a different take on that sort of thing. Like, it's not about talent necessarily. I mean, it's great to have talent or to have people think you have talent, but it certainly doesn't it's not going to make or break somebody's career,
Exactly. That being said, you get into this white collar role of like sales. Yes. And were you good at it? Were you like, oh, I'm good at this and I can really pay my bills. This is cool.
I wasn't horrible at it. Like, I was okay at it. We didn't have to. Fortunately, Second City was a pretty big enough draw. It wasn't like some horrible theme park in the middle of like Gurney, Illinois, which there is a theme park, by the way, in the middle of Gurney, Illinois.
And is it horrible?
You know what? It wasn't when I was like 10 years old and I was going there. It was great.
Oh, we used to go to Cedar Point, and I thought Cedar Point was pretty gross.
But Cedar Point's like super, that's like, everybody wants to go to Cedar Point.
Everyone in the Midwest. Yes. Every senior skip day, everyone's going to Cedar Point.
Yes. That's, Great America was like a poor person's version of Cedar Point, but I digress. So I wasn't terrible, but you didn't have to do that much like hard sales because especially during the summer, they had all these, people wanted to come with groups, companies wanted to bring their employees, blah, blah, blah. It was like, we really didn't have that hard of a time getting people in the theater. The only time it was hard was in January and February when it's like, 30 below in Chicago, and you're like trying to fill the theater on like a Tuesday night. Good luck to anybody with that.
Just for body heat.
Yeah, right.
Just so they can turn the heat on.
There's beer. It's warm. So but I wasn't horrible. At one point, I said to my father at one point, who was not in sales, but was like interested in organizational behavior and had like a master's degree and that kind of sociology and stuff. And I was like, maybe I should sell like equipment, like farm equipment. Maybe that would be like a good way to make money. And he's just like, I like the way you're thinking about this.
I like that, you're a Midwesterner, like you're working in Chicago. And although we consider that a big city, you're already thinking John Deere in Iowa. You're like,
I was thinking of like, oh, well, I could sell farm equipment, or I could, be in outside sales, whatever. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. But
it's just very specific that you're like, I'm really like honing in on this farm equipment thing.
But you didn't even wait. When you went from Second City, though, you went to another entertainment job.
I did go to another entertainment job. See, because I really thought, okay, well, I've got to be in it. I have a friend who is also from the Chicago area, and she's an actress, and she moved to New York immediately after graduating and was like, I'm going to, make it on the Great White Way and all this stuff. And, she ended up working in production, and she got a job on this sitcom. She was the audience coordinator.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because there were live shows that they
remember those. Excuse us for a minute. Our sponsors have something they'd like to say to you. You know what I bet our listeners are thinking right now?
What's that, Bieber?
They're probably thinking, this podcast thing is so easy. I could start my own podcast. And you know what? They're right.
Yeah, we've been using Anchor for a few months now, and it has totally changed our game. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain.
It's free.
I said, let me explain.
Fine.
There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere podcasts are streamed. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I mean, it's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place.
And it's free.
Yes. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. See, that wasn't too bad, was it? Now let's get back to the show.
So she's like, why don't you move to New York and I'll hire you as my assistant audience coordinator.
Yes.
Right.
And did she open up a corner of her studio in New York City for you also? Because
right. She did help me find a sublet. And then
Awesome.
I've lived in like 5 different places in the 3 years that I lived in New York. So eventually I was able to find other sublets, but yeah, I mean, she's a very good friend of mine, and she's
awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome. So I left I'd been in Second City for 5 years, and I was kind of like, I don't see this going. I'm not going to become like a major improviser and like be on the main stage, and that's not really happening.
But at this point, were you thinking, I still want to be in show business in front of the camera or writing or doing something creative?
Yes, I definitely did. And yeah. I still think that.
Of course. Sure. And I think that about you too. Still there. I have Kevin Kramer Starts on Monday. Like, why isn't this a television show yet? Like, I am like, what's happening? We need to do something with this.
I've really tried, and maybe I haven't tried hard enough, but I have kind of tried to figure out a way to work it into I thought maybe like an anthology series of some kind.
Totally.
That was my first thought. But I mean, God bless The Office. I mean, The Office is amazing and it's fantastic. But I think people who are making decisions about television shows are like, well, that's The Office. And if you don't have some really different spin on it, then it's just like The Office.
Oh, well, yeah, because there were like 4 that style shows that came out in the past 5-10 years that just did not make it past. Right. But Kevin Kramer Starts on Monday is really special. It's different.
It's just different.
It's just different.
It's different and better.
Kevin Kramer is it's like The Office meets Mr. Show.
It is. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
That's
it just like melts into the next thing, completely forgetting the last thing, but also remember. Yeah,
I think you need to pitch this. I think we need to have it. This is going to be turning into something not podcasting at all.
Are you okay?
No.
I'll take over. Jamie's out for the I'm in the room.
You just nailed it.
I just nailed it. Okay, good.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I love Mr. Show. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, have your people call my people, and we'll figure this out.
We are each other's people.
I know. I was going to say, I don't have any people. So in New York, I worked only on Cosby, the sitcom that I worked on.
Yes.
But a lot of good things came out of that because I did meet my future husband there, which was good.
Is he in entertainment also?
He is also a writer. He is a TV writer. And for a very long time, he was an employed TV writer, which is even harder to come by.
That is a special snowflake.
Yeah. It is. It's a unicorn.
Yeah.
He's a unicorn. So we met, and then he ended up moving to LA to work on a show. He had gotten a job on a show. And then I was still in New York, and Cosby was still a thing, and we were still working. And then the show went down. It was done.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, either we're going to break up or I guess I'm going to move to LA, even though I literally never thought that would ever be a thing that I would do, but okay. So I moved out here. And then when I got out here, I had, a couple of jobs. And then my like hard turn towards like real work, white collar work, came when I started. I had a friend who was an accountant. And she and I got to be friends at this other job that I was not an accountant at that point. And she went to this reality show company and she was hired as their controller. And she was like, we are just drowning. Can you do, because I was out of work. And she's like, I'll show you how to do it. It's really not hard, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'll do this for a while. Yeah. So I started working at 51 Minds Entertainment, which is no longer in existence. I think like some other big reality company, which escapes me, took it over, bought it out. But they produced shows like Flavor of Love. Have you ever saw Flavor of Love?
Yep. Yes, I did.
Really, real
good stuff.
Programming.
A side of you that I was not familiar with.
Listen, there was that, and there was I don't know if it's the same company, but there was
the Motley Crue one.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Motley Crue. Yeah,
Rock of Love.
Rock of Love.
That was the same company.
Rock of Love 2, because it was Brett. What's his name? Brett Michaels. Brett Michaels. Man, I was like, I am sold. I am going to watch this.
Those shows were very profitable. I mean, this company got bought for like probably millions of dollars for this crap that they were producing.
I feel like that was like the pinnacle of reality TV because they were making fun of themselves. It was so unrealistic reality TV. It was like, it was so like ridiculous. And watching it was just like, you couldn't be that invested. It wasn't taking down American society. It was just funny.
Although I was working at that company when I speaking of high school reunions, I went to a high school reunion because I was in Chicago for like my 20th high school reunion. Yeah. And there, so I was there and I was talking to this woman who I knew in high school and I told her where I worked and I said, oh, if you've ever seen like Flavor of Love or Rock of Love, that's the company. And she was like, how can you have a job like that? Like, how do you look at yourself in the morning that you're doing that? That's just bringing, American society down to the lowest common denominator. And I was like, okay.
So you met a Karen before Karen was popular.
I guess I just didn't expect that I think it's because I didn't really take my job that seriously. I was kind of like, well, I'm just doing a job so that I can have an apartment.
It's called entertainment.
And you know what? Like we know what the product is, but it's not like you were manufacturing that product. You weren't even
scripting it.
Like what is it like?
I had nothing to do with this scripting. All I was doing was like paying the bills. That's all I was doing. Paying the people, paying the bills.
You could have been working at Schwab.
And I have to be honest with you. I honestly feel like we've had so many friends start in reality television as PAs or not line producers, but low level, who've worked
field producers,
sure,
or in accounting, temping, like PAing in any department, and they have now become executive producers of reality television. And I know that if you had wanted to be a writer of reality shitty television, you would be.
Yes, I think that's true, and I totally did not want anything to do with any of that,
Yeah, exactly. You were paying bills.
I was paying the bills.
You were writing an amazing book and you were on a journey to be this amazing human.
Were you writing the book at that time?
At that time, I did start taking classes at UCLA Extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I don't know. Did you meet Todd Goldberg there?
Yes, I did. That's where I met Todd. He was my teacher for several classes. And I really, that was like 3 years. No, God, that was more than 3 years. That was like 6 years after I moved to LA. So for 6 years, I was basically like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Like, I have these crummy jobs. I'm just, going to Sherman Oaks, living in Sherman Oaks.
And let's explain it to people, because we've explained it before, because we both came out like 20-ish years ago. And the thing is, we had the internet, but it wasn't informing us how to be a creative person in Los Angeles, because it's very different than going to New York or Chicago, where there is theater, where there are institutions set up and you can go sign up for a class or audition. It doesn't happen in LA. No one takes your hand, no one holds it, and no one says anything. The only thing you can really get from people are, go to Samuel French bookstore and look for what? Ask someone to look for what, and spend all the money that you don't have to get some books that are not really accurate of information.
No.
Like it was such a game. People coming today are much more informed because the information highway is there for you.
Absolutely.
At a price.
It's often, not at a price like we had to when we came.
You guys have a Thomas guide when you moved out?
Yes. Sure. And I still to this day don't know how to read it. So I would MapQuest everything at Kinko's. I would print out a MapQuest form, pay $1 because it came out in color instead of black and white. And they were like, that's $1. No. And I was like, shit. And then I would go to the audition, and I got to get back to this job so I don't lose it. My stomach was always in knots.
Do you remember trying to follow MapQuest directions backwards?
What?
Oh, I know. Forget it. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Oh, no, you couldn't go in reverse. You had to just know. You had to know how to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. You had to kind of just be able to say, this street looks like the street I took a left on the way in. So I'm going to take a right on it now to get back to whatever.
Yes. I remember how important it was when I got my car in 98 that I got that feature, the compass.
Right.
This was my Jeep. It had a compass, and I'd when all else failed, I could get somewhere.
I had a 1992. This was 2002, 2003. I drove a 1992 Ford Tempo.
Oh my God. We had a Ford Tempo. I should have used the Ford Tempo. I have a story in the first collection. It's got a Pontiac vibe in it. Yeah, I should have used the Ford Tempo. Now that I'm thinking about it,
there's book two.
That's right. There's room for another one.
Always right forward. Coming back to where you're taking classes at UCLA Extension, and you're working at 51 Minds, doing nothing to do with reality television.
No, really not.
But you are doing the whole cog in the machine thing, and and your working days, you're taking classes at night, pursuing, creative pursuit, maybe you're not even writing yet. You're just learning, right?
Right. Yes. I think it took a while. I mean, and it's, I'm sure you guys can attest to this. It's it's never done. I think when I first started writing, I didn't really, you try a bunch of different things out, and it was kind of hard to find the voice that I felt like was more legitimate, for better or worse, to write in, or it was hard to find the things that would create mileage, in the I can get a lot out of this. And I think what started to happen when I was working at 51 Minds, and then after that, is that the whole idea of well, this is your job, and this is how people who have jobs kind of operate in the world. And this is how companies function, and this is your role within the company, and this is how people treat each other. And there was such just a hierarchy. And I get it, the world, we're all in hierarchy. I get it. Sure. But, the way that we were treated as employees, especially at 51 Minds, and then kind of at my other jobs, it was you really started to feel I'm just a body sitting in a chair.
Yep.
I'm a body sitting in a chair doing functioning in a way so that this company can continue to make exponentially more money than I'm ever going to see from that company.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I started to get really mad about it.
Yeah.
Or like there was some injustice about that sort of really started to hit home. And so, I think once I hit on that, I really found there was like a very good vein to just keep, going back and back and back to.
100%. What was your major in college?
I was an English lit major, very, useful in today's world.
For sure.
100%.
Way up there, right there with theater.
I think for a long time, especially when I worked at the company after 51 Minds, which, is an entertainment payroll company.
We're familiar with it. Yes, we know them.
It was very 20th century in its management style. There was a lot of layers. There were a lot of layers between low level and high level, and lots of managers who were just supposed to sort of grease the wheels between the low level people. It was very weird. At that company, so many people died while I was there. Like, it was scary. And after a while, I started to be like, am I going to be one of these people who dies here?
At this job? Yeah.
Were these old people?
Were they stressed out, or were they like...
I think a lot of them were really stressed out. I mean, it was a stressful place to work. And in fact, I got to figure out how to write this story, but we had this for a long time. This just cracked me up personally. I don't know if this will translate, but there's this actual designation called a great place to work, TM. Trademark, great place to work. It's it's a real
Los Angeles, 100, whatever, best places to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So
my company was on it every year.
There you go. Yeah. So my company wanted, in the worst way, to be able to say that they were on the great place to work.
Oof.
Wow.
So for years, they would send out surveys to their employees and answer the survey, and we want to be on a great place to work, blah, blah, for years. Wow. And for years, they never, ever got even close to being on the great place to work, because everybody was like, this is not a great place to work.
And I'm going to venture a guess that for years, despite not making it onto the desired list, they never changed a thing.
No, why would they do that? It's about their nasty employees who are mean and spiteful and, act like little children and want things that we can't provide them and shouldn't have to provide them. I mean.
And who, do you ever go, but who are these people sitting at the top? It always reminds me of the Muppets and those two guys in the opera box. I'm like, who are
Waldorf and
oh God, what was the other guy's name? I should know this as a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
Statler.
That's it.
Yes.
But where is this coming from? If we're all feeling this way.
Well, I've been meaning to say in this conversation that, one of the things that I love about your book, and what I love about having you, I feel like we have you on this episode of the podcast, not just as a guest, but as like an expert witness.
Oh,
because,
God.
Well, because you did something with your book,
right?
That you kind of explored the psychology of the machine itself, that so many of us have been a part of, and especially we artists who were kind of dip into that machine and live in a few years, but then we all get out.
Or we try.
Yeah. So you're working at this payroll company.
Yes.
And this is the time when you're inspired and you kind of figure out, and in a way you're doing the job for money, but you're also now kind of milking it for your stories.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know, I'd have to really think about it, because for better or worse, as much as I really at times, I mean, I made a lot of friends there and I had a lot of friends who still work there. As much as I hated working there at various points along the decade that I worked there, I needed that job. Like
Same.
I needed to have that kind of like creative spark of like fury in this case, this like furious reaction of like how absurd it all was. It really like it like struck a chord or like, pinged something internally that I was like, oh, this is really good stuff. I mean, I've always enjoyed reading, absurdist type authors, Kafka and like George Saunders. I just love George Saunders. And I think that really all of a sudden, like the confluence of events was such that it just like, this is what I'm writing about. It was just like, oh, okay. And
it's
I mean,
smart.
Being in UCR at the time also was really helpful because you're forced to like, you got to write, it's not just like sitting around going like, maybe I'll write about that time when I was, 5 and blah, blah, blah. It was like, oh, I need to write something that's like immediate. That's like really gonna kind of like, I can put some energy towards some like, emotional, intellectual energy towards.
Were you still at this, place when you went through UCR?
Yes, I was definitely still, I was working and going to UCR and I think it worked out, it just worked out that like, that was something I felt I needed to write about.
So then what happens, you're writing a given chapter and it's been a little while since I've read it because it was when you were doing the program, but you and these are short stories for anyone who hasn't read.
A collection of stories, but they have a common thread.
Yes. So when you finish one and you've got another thing to write, do you come into work kind of looking for it at that point? Like, does it change the work experience? Do you find yourself like flipping into voyeur mode?
Oh my God, totally. Yeah, that's a great question. I always was like, in like observing mode, like, from the corner of some meeting to like, oh God, and things start hitting you. Like, for example, one of the stories it's not like I was thinking about like, well, I got to write a story or whatever. I was just at work and one of my coworkers started talking about this guy who worked in software and just like, oh my God, this guy is so disgusting. And he's just like got this mug and it's just totally disgusting. And I was like, oh my God, all of a sudden I just was like, this is gold. Keep talking, what else does he have? So, I mean, I think I started to become very observational in my, just when I was there and seeing how.
Did you write on the job? Did you actually like write some of it on the job?
God, I think at one point I did. Oh, I know. At one point, one of the things they kept doing at this job is they kept moving people. Like they kept moving us around. Like somehow things were magically going to get better if they moved us from like this floor to this floor, or like they changed everybody's seats, or they moved us. So they had.
They did that in Jack's first grade class. Let's take a quick break.
And now back to the podcast. They would just move me because I was a temp, even though I wasn't. They just kept moving me to different floors and I would have to like take stairs to get back to the team by myself all day long. I was very thin. I was very, very thin.
I'm sure from all the cardio up and down the stairs.
It was great. I was like, okay. But for the longest time, they kept me right next to the bathroom. So every time somebody would go to the bathroom, they felt it necessary to talk to me. And
oh God, see, it's like office space. You're lucky they didn't put you in the basement with the stapler.
It was exactly like Office Space. I was like, we couldn't figure out what was happening. Anyways, continue, please.
They were moving you around.
So they were moving people around. So at one point, they moved me and one other person into like an office that had been some like it hadn't been in somebody's office. It was like some stray room that they were like, oh, we're going to move you two into this office. So when I moved in with this one other person, I was like, if I had the time, I was like writing or, working on stuff. But that didn't, of course that didn't last forever. And they moved us out and back into the fray.
Oh, I don't know if people know this, but it costs an extraordinary amount of money to move people in office buildings because you cannot move yourself. You're absolutely not allowed to touch anything. They have to hire outside companies that are insured, and they pay a ton of money to move employees. And I always think about that with how many times I was moved to a different floor. Like, were they paying for me? But they never moved my desk or my things, like, which I didn't have any anyway. Yeah. It was like I was a ghost. But I do think about, because they did the same thing. And there was open floor plans, and then they would renegotiate how those open floor plans looked like hexagon desks, or the squares, or the like. Is that a Nazi symbol? What have you done? Like, just really weird shapes.
Swastika shaped desks.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a pretty clever design for like 4 desks.
Yes.
That's right.
But it was so, if you could just like rise above and see what was happening, but it cost them so much money. And I just think to myself, well, maybe that's why you lost the confections business. You spend so much money moving people constantly.
I totally agree. I think that there's like, very sort of like low-hanging fruit ideas about organizations and people being more resourceful and like things that'll motivate people, and that stuff is just not, you can't really motivate. What motivates people is more money and better stuff and more benefits.
Flexible vacation.
Flexible things. And, I think it's really ironic that now, but hopefully semi-post-pandemic or fingers crossed, a lot of companies are like, well, we're going to go back to the way that was, where you're going to have to be in the office. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, nobody needs to be in an office anymore. Sorry, commercial real estate business.
Right.
I mean, that's not my problem.
They really want work culture.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Which is really just like propaganda for your culture.
Exactly.
So when did you leave that job? Was it when you finished the book? What happened?
It was,
and done.
You can pre-order my book here, and here.
Now, I still worked there after I wrote the book, which I thought was a little bit weird. Like, I was kind of like, and some of the people, like, I mean, I had friends who worked there, who read it, who, got a kick out of it. But some, like the guy who was the head marketing person, he told me that he read it. And I was like, how did you read that and not get like a little bit weirded out by any of this?
Obtuse.
Yes, very obtuse. I was like, I don't know how you read that and didn't recognize yourself.
It's a marvelous work of fiction, Debbie.
Right.
Where did you get the inspiration?
Where did you find those ideas?
Such a creative mind you have.
Oh, so funny. So I did work there. And then I think at one point I just was like, you know what? I cannot work here anymore.
Because I don't want to die here.
I didn't want to die there. I was like, I can't just be that person that they have the memorial potluck for. Like, I just can't do that. So which they had, there definitely was plenty of those. So I left, and then, all of this. And so by this point, like, now I've been in and around production accounting for TV and and features for like 15 years.
Isn't that wild?
So I got I freelanced at Netflix for 3 years, and you learn a skill and then it's like, well, I need to have a job. And I have to say, I've been freelancing for the last like 4 years.
That's great.
And I get my benefits through the IATSE, it's part of the union and all that stuff. And I feel like there is something to be said for not being part of like a corporate culture.
Yeah.
Somehow I didn't feel as like personally inundated with all of the propaganda that just constantly comes in. I think when you are a corporate employee, I mean, never say never. I could be a corporate employee tomorrow. Who the hell knows? But it's just, I feel like that makes some kind of a difference somehow.
Even if you stay at a place, you still have this sense of self, right? When you freelance, like,
right,
I can leave at any time and pick up work someplace else. I'm not beholden to this culture or this mindset because I have myself. I have invested in this separate thing that supports me, and that's it.
Yes,
it's a big deal. Like, we own our own business, but we have Airbnbs, but we're conscientious about it. But in saying that, we are through Airbnb. Now, we're not a part of their structure. We're freelancers. They're just, and it's nice because I feel like I don't have to believe in everything they do, and I can fight against some of their rigidity and like what they do in community and feel okay about it still.
Yes. Right.
So I totally understand.
I think there's definitely something to that, where you don't have to be part of the culture. And you don't have to have you don't have to be funneled the propaganda.
Right.
As I think it was very useful for me to be in that situation so that I could get what I needed creatively out of it.
100%.
I'm totally appreciative of it, but like I said, I think that's it. Like, there is like an existential threat in my head of like, I cannot die being that person. Like, I've got to be a different person. I've got to have different experiences than just that,
Yeah.
There is a formula, and there's like, what am I getting out of this job? And if it's just money, how much money is enough?
Right.
If it's more than money, like, how much experience, what is experience worth as compared to money?
Right.
I have not yet found the job that I felt like this is the job I want to die doing.
Oh God. That's
and I don't think really there is a job that anybody wants to die doing. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean,
the job of living. The job of living life is the only one that you can successfully die from doing.
That's right.
I think I would like to, finally make it as a paid actor and have that be my only career and do that for the rest of my life. I think that's the job I want to die doing.
Well, I'm glad to know that. Thank you for declaring it.
One of these,
I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous.
But of course, that's, once you get that job, then you second guess everything.
Yeah, but that's the nature of any job, I mean, I think even a quote creative job, a creative job is, if it's a job and there are job responsibilities and there are job irritations and annoyances and, there are people most likely that you have to deal with, which always creates a problem when there are any people that anybody has to deal with. It's just, starts to be like, I feel like at least I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid in a way, because I have there's no doubt that like the job that I have is not a creative job. It is not. There is a definite like schism between me and my job and like me and my creative endeavors. And if my creative endeavors ever afford me some kind of cash that I can live off of, that I'm really able to, then that's great. I'm not gonna never say never, but I think for a long time I did want to get out of having a day job. And like, really, who wouldn't want to get out of having a day job in some way, like win the lottery, inherit $1 billion, whatever. Like, nobody really likes having a day job, I don't think. I mean, not to make grandiose statements like that, I'm sure some people do, but I just kind of feel like that like if I'm going to have, like, I just could never see, I still really can't see that my creative endeavors necessarily are going to translate into me making a living out of it. Not that I've given up, but I feel like it gives me a little bit more freedom in a way to pursue some different kind of writing, or writing in a way that maybe isn't super publishable, or is kind of more experimental.
100%.
It sort of like frees me up to feel that way.
I understand exactly. I think I understand exactly what you're saying, because there are people who, there are so many different kinds of writers, and everybody might have an end goal of wanting to be a book writer or be a TV screenwriter. But we see writers making a living as ghostwriters, content writers, feeding the coffer writers. And that is not who I am.
Right.
I write books, and I write pilots, like the shows, like those are the two. And I don't want to spend the time trying to make a living, quote, as a writer, writing content, because somebody asked me to write content before, and I did it, and I hated it so much. I was like, no, this isn't writing. No. This isn't what I thought writing was. And I don't want to do this.
I totally, I'm with you 100%. Like if I'm going to write, like I'm going to write the stuff that I want to write, whatever that is. I don't want to write like listicles.
Exactly. And I was writing for radio, and I was doing that, and for DJs in the morning. And it was like, it was so hard though. Also, people do not know how hard that is. Horrible. It was so freaking hard. And it would take, they were like, oh, when you've done it long enough, your 8-hour day won't be 14 hours. Okay. And I was like, it was taking me 14 hours to come up with like 30 different, I had to write 30 articles. Half of them were listicles. Half of them I had to like, I was scouring, TMZ and all I had to read so much every day, read really fast, pull the information and get it all in by 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I had to get up at 4 a.m. to get the stories before. Oh, no. It was horrible. And that's a writer. That is a writer. And the women I met doing it are awesome. Yeah. They're awesome. But I don't want to do that. If that's the title, not that. That's not who I am.
I don't want to be an actor doing reenactments or, airplane videos.
Reenactments, because we've done them.
I've done them.
Oh my God. What kind of like crime scene reenactments from like.
Yes.
I was in a natural disaster, the Haiti earthquake.
I was in the one where the woman's husband was mauled by a bear and survived because I ran and like saved him from the bear or something. Like it was bizarre.
That's awesome.
It's really me like running a lot in short shorts. I look nothing like this.
That is incredible. That is great. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of show business
opportunities to whore out your craft.
Yeah. Which is, and a lot of people will do all of them, and that's great. And I think it suits some people have the, not the fortitude, but not the tenacity, but something. They have something.
It's some like innate reason to like stay in that, and I think that's great. Like if somebody is, has that gear where they can be like, I'm doing that reenactment, and I'm going to write that listicle, and I'm going to write that, article for whatever website. And I sound like a person who's never been on the internet before, but you know what I mean. Like,
I know 100% what you mean. And I am on the internet.
I mean, I'm on the internet a lot too, but I just don't like, that's the other thing that I don't really do. This is just turning into me sounding like a complete, like a person who's like doing nothing in their, like knitting in their garage or something. Like,
just a technological Luddite.
Right. Okay, so you're freelance working in billing or
production.
Bill pay.
Yeah. And then you're working on
books too.
Yes, I
am. Yes.
Exciting.
Are you working? What else are you working on?
When you write a short story collection, which do you write short stories or do you write novels?
I write novels. Yeah.
Okay. I should have known that.
No, that's okay. I write novels. I find that I have my first book, which won't go out. It got me into the program, was a collection of short stories, but it led into this one long story, and a lot of it is set at my workplace, my former workplace too. But
I need to read this book.
I'm reformulating it now. It's not the first book that's going out. I wrote a completely different book in the program.
That's so exciting. Wow.
So I'm having trouble with the fictional short story. I think essays are easier for me than fictional short stories. And you are a master at fictional short stories. I mean, it's hard. That is hard.
It is hard, but it is hard. But I find for me that what's harder for me is writing. I think in novels you get so much, there's so many pages and there's so many things that you can, there's so many avenues that you can take, and you can jump in and out of people's heads, and it just feels very overwhelming to me to try to do that. That being said, I really think that it's something, and I've been saying this for years, but I think now this like pandemic period has I really found myself like doing a lot of writing and having a lot of different ideas about my writing. And so I think I'm don't hold me to it, but I really think at this point, I'm like, you know what? I really should I have material for something longer.
Okay.
Qualify that.
Exciting.
I mean, whatever that
You heard it here first, folks.
Well,
yes, right.
I also want to make one disclaimer really quick. Debbie's short story collection is successful. It does not need to be made into TV to suit my needs. Books aren't successful because they get made into movies or television shows. I want people to know that books are successful because they are books. End of discussion. I just wanted to say that because a lot of people come and think like, oh, well, when's it going to get made into a movie or a TV show? And I'm like, no. It's a book. It's successful.
Right.
It's a whole thing.
Hey, like I am totally open to, if somebody wanted to approach me about turning my collection into a series, I'd be like, yeah, let's talk about it.
100%. I would watch it.
I have, no compunction about that.
I would beg for a job on it. Can I get
oh my God, I'd beg for a job on it. Are you kidding me?
Right? Debbie, you're amazing.
Yes.
You guys are amazing.
We want to thank you so much. This has been amazing. This is a dream goal for me to have you on the show and to talk about all of this. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for being so lovely and wonderful. And we'll chat. We'll chat more.
Yeah, I would love that. We would like to thank our guest, Debbie Graber. Make That Paper is us, Jamie Parker Stickle and Jason Bieber. Episodes mixed and edited by Jason Bieber. Our theme song is Monday Girl by Jordan Bieber. And Make That Paper is hosted on Anchor FM. If you like the show, do what all podcasts ask you to do. Subscribe, rate, review, and share. And talk about it on social media, at work, family gatherings, and at your favorite watering hole. And tune in next week for another great guest.